Okay, we've put in 850 grams of white flour, 150 grams of whole wheat flour to give us our 1,000 grams. And we'll add 720 grams of water between 90 and 95 degree temperature. And this is an artisan bread, not a sourdough. So in this there will be a bit of dry yeast used in it, as where if you're doing sourdough bread you use 11. And the leaven I keep in the fridge. And then you got to feed it about 24 hours in advance, and then you make a sourdough out of it. So there are two different types of breads actually, similar but different. What we got to do now is incorporate the flour. Once this is mixed up, it'll sit for about 20 minutes just to rest, and then we'll add 21 grams of salt to it and 4 grams of instant yeast.
Why do you use weight rather than volume, Del?
Because flour have different density to them, and so if you measure by volume, you know, you could take that and fill it up, say, and it might weigh 500 grams. But if you use another flour, it might weigh 600 grams or it could weigh 450 grams. So, I mean, weight is always a much more accurate. Most bakers will use a weight system rather than volume. Just that volume tends to be less accurate.
Do you grind your own wheat, or where do you get your flour
We grind,
from?
yeah. Some of this is, the white is not organic, but the whole wheat is organic. It comes from a mill that does it in the Peace Country. It's a really beautiful grind that they do.
Do you have a grinder as well yourself?
Yeah,
Del?
we have a grinder ourselves as well for a wheat, little small flour mill. And we have a bunch of grain now. I've got about 40-50 pounds of wheat that we'll grind later on for ourselves. Which we'll leave this at right now. It'll just stay like that. We'll let it sit for about 20.
How do you know how much to mix it?
Well, you can tell it's more by feel. You know, you want to make sure your water is incorporated really well with it. It appears like it's not dry now, but it's a little sticky. But eventually, when we mix it later on, we have to turn it and mix the salt and the flour, and you wet your hands to do that, because when you wet your hands it doesn't stick to it. The very little it will stick to it. You'll see when I do it, and that incorporates a little bit more water back into it. I've measured out 21 grams of fine sea salt that we'll put in here.
It has rested 20 minutes since the first step.
Yeah, it's rested 20 minutes here. So I'll wet my hands here a bit. And we'll scatter the salt on top.
And what type of salt did you say this was?
It's a fine sea salt. So it has no iodine or anything added to it. And then this is 4 grams of instant yeast, just very little yeast these things take. So then what we'll do is we'll do a fold over to get that salt and stuff folded into it. And then start using kind of a pincer type method, just squeezing it and incorporate it all, because we got to work that salt and that yeast into the dough. We'll let it rest later for about a minute. Then we'll kind of fold it, mix it again just a little for 30 seconds or 40 seconds, and then we'll do a first fold on it. You see the consistency really starting to change now.
And that's
once I'm done here, it goes into a proofer box, just that it keeps the dough consistent temperature, because in your house it varies up and down and it's not always necessarily warm enough. So I keep it at 25.6 and I let it sit in there for 5 hours. So now I'll just do one more really quick mix here. Okay, now we leave it covered and let it sit for about 10 minutes. And this will be the last stage before it actually goes into the proofer. And this part here you do fairly gently. There's this particular dough we'll do 2 folds. So you take your hand and fold it underneath of it like that and bring it up and put it on top. And do that just very gently, and it'll help the dough. It traps air in the dough, a bit of air, and starts making it work. So we'll do it like that. It's about all we need. And now we'll need one more fold, and we'll do another fold probably in about a half hour. But right now we're going to cover it up and we're going to put it in the proofer. And into here, and the controller will maintain that temperature within 2 degrees. So I have it set at 25.6. So there on, your dough starts to ferment. After, we'll do one more turn in about 20 minutes, then we won't touch it again for about 5 hours. Take this out of the proofer here. This is going to be its final fold. This one only requires about 2 folds. So I'll wet my hand right up to the wrist actually a bit, because that's how you have to do this. Starting to flatten out a bit already, and then we just get underneath of it, scoop it up, move it up, and blast on top. And basically that's how we will leave it formed, and it'll go back into the proofer now. It's 20 after 9, so it'll go back into about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then we'll take it out at that time, break it down into 2, because this will make 2 loaves, and then we will put it into the proofing baskets.
Okay, so we're waiting for the bread to be done. So there's our baker now. Baker, look over here.
Hey there.
Fat biking now.
Bread's been in the proofer for about 5 hours now. Oh yeah, look at that. Really starting to bubble up nice. To go, it's got to basically rise to its 2 to 3 times its original size, and this one's probably done a good 3 size. So we'll put a little bit of flour on the edge here. Doesn't catch. I'm going to bring this baby out of here. Try to do this in half the best we can, because we got 2 loaves here. And take the knife, a bread knife here. Just keep your hands lightly floured here. We'll kind of stretch that out here a bit. And we'll roll that to the middle. That up to the middle. Basically roll it up. And we'll start to work it a bit into a loaf, and if we do this to it, we put just a bit of tension into it. We'll put this bread in seamed side down. That way we don't have to cut it when it comes out. That one's ready to go. Put that in here. The basket.
That's a basket lined with
linen, yeah, with linen cloth. Into the basket. Now what we'll do, line those 2 baskets up. We'll flour them just lightly on top. And then we cover them over, and they have to sit about an hour and a quarter, somewhere in that neighborhood. And then they'll be ready. We'll do a test proof on them. This is cast iron cooker. Called a Challenger. Then I use this pot here for my second one. We slide that in. They need to heat up ahead of time, so it cooks those, gets those cookers up to about 475 degrees. And then we got to take these out of the bannetons now. You can tell when they're ready to go by the time you push your finger in about 1/2 inch, and if it doesn't spring back, it means they're time to go into their oven to cook it. Yeah, they're pre-rolled in the oven at 475 degrees. Take this off. Oops. Just lift them off very gently. They'll stay formed. And that goes into there. And a couple ice cubes go in.
Why do you put the ice cubes in?
They cause steam inside the cooker, and it allows them to rise. Otherwise you get a crust on them. Put that one in.
And why do you use the parchment paper?
Parchment, then you don't drop it going down, so it helps maintain their shape. See, they hold their shape like that. Otherwise they'll squash down, eh? Just wait. Okay, cover it back up. Put it back into the oven. Set it for 30 minutes.
And what temperature do you have that at?
475 degrees. Down, and then we have to take the lid off the cookers in the inside so that we can form the crust on it. There's the bread without it on, and we'll take that one off here. And there's what the bread looks like right now, so we'll cook it further 23 minutes.
At 4:25.
At 4:25, yeah.